The film flickers on the screen. The old reel crackles, filling the silent, dust-laden theater. The scene is aged, grainy with time. On the illuminated stage, a man in a pristine tuxedo stands confidently, smiling as he receives the audience's applause. He raises his hand for a final dramatic gesture, and then, in an instant, he vanishes into thin air. The image falters. The film reel stutters. The audio distorts, hissing with static. Amidst the interference, a voice emerges distant, muffled, almost lost. "Help me." The screen fades to black. The room plunges into silence. Decades have passed since Victor Tremont, one of the brightest stars of the silent film era, disappeared without a trace during the premiere of his final movie. No body was found. No explanation given. Only the film itself bore witness to his inexplicable vanishing. Shortly after, the Grand Royale shut its doors. Rumors spread. Some claimed to hear sounds from inside the abandoned theater. Others swore they saw figures moving behind the heavy, dust-covered curtains. Some believed Tremont's ghost still lingered. And now, the mystery is stirring once again. Mystery Inc. stands before the Grand Royale. The night is cold and still. The once glorious marquee flickers weakly. Its neon letters are cracked, some missing entirely. The wind rustles faded posters of forgotten films. Fred holds a yellowed invitation sent by a documentarian obsessed with Tremont's disappearance. He claimed something strange was happening inside. Something no one could explain. Daphne pulls her coat tighter, glancing at the sign. This place should have no power. So why are the lights still on? Fred doesn't answer. He pushes open the heavy doors. They groan in protest before swinging open. Stale air rushes past them, thick with dust and decay. Inside, the Grand Royale is frozen in time. Rows of velvet seats shrouded in white sheets, like ghosts in an empty auditorium. Ornate chandeliers hang above, their luster long faded. And then, the projector turns on by itself. A beam of light cuts through the dark. A film begins to play. The footage is eerily familiar, an old premiere night at the Grand Royale. The theater is packed, men in tuxedos, women in elegant gowns. Everything seems normal. Then, something shifts. In the corner of the frame, a lone figure stands. A man in a dark suit. His face is blurred, indistinct. He does not speak. He does not move. He simply watches. Daphne narrows her eyes. Did anyone else see that? The air feels heavier. Scooby swallows hard, gripping Shaggy's arm. How about we leave? The theater lights flicker. Once. Twice. Then, total darkness. A hush falls over the room. Fred switches on his flashlight. The weak beam sweeps across the velvet seats. Something shifts between the rows. A faint rustling like slow, dragging footsteps on carpet. "Who's there?" Fred calls out. Silence. Then, the sound system crackles to life. A burst of static followed by a voice cutting through the interference. "Help me." The air turns ice cold. It's Velma's voice. But Velma is not there. Scooby stumbles back. Shaggy presses himself against a seat. Fred rushes toward the stage, the curtain swaying slightly as if someone had just passed through. Daphne hurries toward the backstage. "Velma, where are you?" The response comes through the speakers, distorted, struggling against time. I don't know." Daphne hesitates. "What do you mean? Where are you?" No answer. Only the relentless hum of static. Scooby and Shaggy tremble. Velma turned into a ghost. The projector stutters. The image on screen flickers. A new sequence begins. The footage is warped, unstable. Velma is at the center of the screen. But something is wrong. She is not here, in the theater. Not anywhere they recognize. The lighting is different, unnatural. She looks directly at the camera. Her lips move, urgent, pleading. Behind her, a shadow creeps closer. The film distorts. The screen goes black. Daphne turns to Fred. This isn't possible. Fred bolts toward the projection room. Daphne follows close behind. The door swings open. The room is empty. The projector spins on its own, no film inside. Velma is gone. And in the depths of the theater, something moves in the dark. The investigation has begun. A heavy silence hangs over the Grand Royale. The screen remains dark. The last flickering image of Velma burned into the minds of those still standing in the abandoned theater. Fred steps forward, his flashlight beam cutting through the dust, swirling in the air. The seats, the stage, the peeling wallpaper, everything is still. Yet something feels undeniably wrong. Daphne turns to him, her voice steady but laced with unease. She was on the screen. That wasn't just an old film, Fred. She was there. Shaggy grips Scooby's fur tightly, his eyes darting nervously around the room. This place is cursed, man. First, that old movie star disappears into thin air, and now Velma's stuck inside her. He stops mid-sentence as a sudden noise echoes from behind the stage. A slow creak, followed by the unmistakable sound of something shifting in the shadows. Fred raises a hand, signaling for silence. He moves cautiously toward the sound, his flashlight flickering, as if struggling to stay alive in the suffocating darkness. Daphne follows, brushing past the heavy, moth-eaten curtains that separate the auditorium from the backstage area. A long corridor stretches before them, lined with old dressing rooms, their doors hanging slightly ajar. The air smells of aged wood and forgotten dust, the sentinel place untouched by time. Then, from the end of the hallway, a faint glow appears. A projector. It sits on an antique wooden table, its reel spinning slowly, though there is no film inside. A beam of dim light flickers onto the wall, casting shifting shadows that seem to move on their own. Fred steps closer, his fingers hovering over the machine. The humming sound it emits is unnatural, distorted, as if playing a soundtrack no one can hear. Then, without warning, the projector stops. Daphne inhales sharply, and then the voices start. A whispering murmur rises from the empty corridor, soft at first but growing louder. Words layered on top of one another, too jumbled to understand. Fred turns the flashlight in the direction of the sound, illuminating rows of forgotten costumes hanging from a rusted rack. The whispers continue, surrounding them, reverberating off the walls as if the building itself is speaking. Then, a sudden movement. Something small scurries between the costumes. A blur of motion, quick and soundless. Daphne gasps, stepping back. A reflection flashes in the broken mirror mounted to the far wall. For just a fraction of a second, a figure stands there, a man in an old-fashioned suit, his face obscured by static, like an unfinished reel of film. Then, he is gone. Fred grips Daphne's arm. "Did you see that?" She nods, still staring at the mirror. But now, it reflects only their own stunned expressions. From the front of the theater, Scooby suddenly howls. Fred and Daphne rush back, pushing through the heavy curtains, emerging just in time to see Scooby cowering behind a row of seats. Shaggy is clutching his arm, his face pale as he points toward the screen. "The movie?" His voice trembles. "It just changed." Fred's eyes dart to the screen. The old footage is rolling again, but the scene is different. The once packed theater is now empty, its luxurious interior frozen in eerie silence. The camera moves down the rows of seats, gliding as if held by an unseen force. Then it stops. At the center of the screen, one seat is occupied. A woman sits there, her back to the camera. Her long, dark hair cascades over her shoulders, her body completely motionless. The flickering of the film distorts her outline, making her seem less like a person and more like a shadow imprinted onto the film itself. Then, she turns her head, just slightly, and as the image distorts, something is unmistakably wrong. Her face isn't Velma's. Daphne grips Fred's arm. That's not her. The film cuts out. The screen goes black. The theater plunges back into silence. Shaggy swallows hard. This is officially the creepiest place we've ever been. Fred straightens, scanning the room with a determined expression. Whatever is happening here, it's not just old film tricks. Someone is behind this. Daphne nods. And we're going to find out who. Scooby whimpers, but doesn't protest. This is officially the creepiest place we've ever been. Fred straightens, scanning the room with a determined expression. Whatever is happening here, it's not just old film tricks. Someone is behind this. Daphne nods. And we're going to find out who. Scooby whimpers, but doesn't protest. Somewhere in the distance, a faint click echoes through the empty theater. A door unlocking or opening. The mystery is pulling them deeper, and there's no turning back now. The air inside the Grand Royale is heavy, thick with dust and the weight of decades-old secrets. The faint echo of the unlocking door still lingers in the silence, its source unknown. Fred moves first, his steps careful, controlled. That sound came from somewhere in the back, he says. Daphne tightens her coat around her shoulders. Velma could be there. Shaggy shakes his head, gripping Scooby tightly. Or something else. No one disagrees. The group moves deeper into the theater, following the sound. The grand auditorium fades behind them as they step into a narrow hallway lined with forgotten storage rooms. Old posters peel from the walls, their colors faded, their edges curling. The smell of mildew clings to the air, thick and stagnant. Then they see it. At the end of the hallway, a single door is slightly ajar. Fred moves forward cautiously and pushes it open. Inside, a hidden film archive stretches before him, shelves stacked high with reels of old movies, their labels yellowed and barely legible. A massive metal filing cabinet stands against the far wall, its drawers slightly open. The light in the room flickers, its weak glow barely pushing back the darkness. Fred scans the shelves. These films must be from the theater's early days. Daphne moves toward the cabinet, running her fingers along the rusted handles. If anyone wanted to hide something, this would be the place. Shaggy and Scooby hang back, their eyes darting between the rows of shelves. Why do these places always feel haunted? Shaggy mutters. Scooby whimpers in agreement. Daphne pulls open one of the drawers. Inside, a collection of brittle newspaper clippings sits atop old ledgers and records. She picks up the topmost paper, the headline barely visible beneath years of dust. Victor Tremont vanishes on premiere night. No explanation given. Fred reads over her shoulder. There has to be something they missed. Daphne scans the article, her eyes narrowing. The last time anyone saw him, he was walking backstage. No one saw him leave. No one even remembers hearing a door open. She hesitates, then adds, like he disappeared into thin air. Shaggy groans. Why does every mystery have to involve someone disappearing into thin air? Fred ignores him. His focus shifts to a film reel sitting on top of the cabinet, separated from the others. There's no label, just a single word scrawled in red ink on the canister. Final cut. He lifts the reel carefully. It's heavier than expected, the metal cold against his fingers. We need to see what's on this, he says. Daphne nods, dusting off the surface. The projector in the theater still works. If this is the last footage of Victor Tremont, it might tell us what really happened to him. Scooby whines. Really? Shaggy crosses his arms. I vote we just assume it's haunted and get out of here. No one listens. Fred leads the way back toward the main auditorium, carrying the reel carefully in his hands. The shadows seem darker now, the air heavier, as if something inside the Grand Royale knows what they've found. The group steps back into the main theater. The projector still hums softly in the darkness, waiting ... Fred loads the film. The reels begin to turn. The beam of light cuts through the air, casting a new image onto the screen. And then they see him. Victor Tremont stands in the center of the frame. His tuxedo is immaculate, his hair neatly styled. The footage is in perfect condition, sharper than any of the other reels they've seen so far. He is alone, on stage, the same stage where he was last seen. Then he speaks. His voice is low, urgent. If you are watching this, he hesitates. His eyes dart off camera, as if listening for something. Then you are in danger. Shaggy's jaw drops. That's not what I wanted to hear, man. Victor continues. They told me not to speak, not to reveal what I saw. The image flickers, distorting slightly. But the truth must be known. The Grand Royale. The film cuts to black. The group stares at the screen, frozen. Then a sound. The low, deliberate knocking echoes through the silent theater. Fred turns toward the stage, his flashlight beam cutting through the thick darkness. The heavy velvet curtains sway slightly, as if someone or something had just passed through. Daphne exhales sharply. Tell me that was just the wind. No one answers. Fred moves forward, stepping onto the stage, the old wooden boards creaking beneath his weight. Shaggy and Scooby remain near the seats, their backs pressed against the worn fabric. The knocking stops. Then, from behind the curtain, a different sound emerges. A rustling. Faint but unmistakable. Fred grips the edge of the curtain and, in one swift motion, pulls it aside. Behind it, a door stands slightly open, leading into the depths of the Grand Royale's backstage. The darkness beyond is nearly impenetrable, the air thick with dust and the scent of aged wood. Daphne steps up beside him. The article said Tremont was last seen walking backstage. Fred nods. Then that's where we go. Shaggy groans. Why do we always have to go toward the creepy sounds? Scooby whimpers in agreement, but neither of them stays behind. Fred pushes the door open, revealing a long, narrow hallway lined with forgotten props and dusty furniture. The dim emergency lights flicker weakly above. The deeper they go, the more the air seems to press in around them, as if the very walls are watching. At the end of the hallway, an old dressing room door stands ajar. The brass nameplate is still intact. Victor Tremont. Daphne reaches for the handle. It's ice cold. She pushes it open. Inside, the room is untouched by time. The vanity mirror is cracked but still stands, its bulbs long burned out. A dusty tuxedo hangs from a hook, its pristine condition eerily preserved. An old trunk sits in the corner, its lid slightly open. Fred steps inside, scanning the room. This was Tremont's last stop before he disappeared. Daphne moves toward the vanity, brushing her fingers over the surface. The dust parts beneath her touch, revealing something carved into the wood. A single word, scratched in deep, hurried strokes. Run. Her breath catches. Fred. Before he can respond, the projector in the corner of the room flickers to life. The static hum fills the air. Then, a new image appears on the cracked vanity mirror. It's Victor Tremont. But this is not the confident star they had seen before. His expression is frantic, his breathing heavy. He leans toward the camera, as if pleading directly to them. They lied to you. His voice crackles through unseen speakers. This theater isn't haunted. It's trapped. The image distorts. Tremont glances over his shoulder. His face contorts with fear. They don't want me to leave. Fred steps closer. Who doesn't? The image shudders violently. Tremont grips the edge of the vanity, his knuckles white. His mouth moves, forming words, but no sound comes out. Then a shadow appears behind him. It's tall, featureless, moving. Tremont whirls around, eyes wide in terror. The screen goes black. The air in the dressing room drops 10 degrees in an instant. A deep, guttural creak sounds from somewhere above them. Fred looks up. The ceiling beam's old, heavy wooden structures begin to shift. Dust rains down. The walls tremble. Daphne grabs his arm. Something's happening. The room explodes into darkness. A sudden violent crash splits the air. When the light flickers back on, the dressing room door is slammed shut. A low, rasping breath echoes from the other side. Fred doesn't hesitate. Run. Daphne yanks the door open. The group bursts into the hallway, racing back toward the main auditorium. The air feels different, now charged, restless, as if something is awake. Fred stops just short of the theater entrance, heart pounding. The film, he gasps. Tremont knew something. We have to find the real ending. Daphne nods, catching her breath. Shaggy, still trembling, throws up his hands. Or, we could not do that. No one listens. Something is pulling them deeper. And the Grand Royale isn't done with them yet. The air in the Grand Royale feels heavier now, thick with something unseen, something watching. The group stands at the edge of the darkened auditorium, their breath uneven from the frantic escape. Dust lingers in the air, disturbed by whatever force had rattled the dressing room moments before. Fred grips his flashlight. Tremont was trying to warn us. Whatever happened to him, it's in the film. Daphne nods, brushing dust from her jacket. We need to find the last reel. The one no one was supposed to see. Shaggy shakes his head furiously. And hear me out, we don't. Scooby whimpers, his tail tucked between his legs. But no one is turning back. Fred leads the way, crossing the silent theater floor to projection booth. The stairway creaks beneath their steps as they ascend. The room is small, lined with metal shelves stacked with reels, their faded labels barely legible. The projector sits at the center, its massive frame looming over them. Fred scans the shelves. The final cut was missing something. Tremont was cut off before he could finish. Daphne moves toward the back of the room, running her fingers over the dust-covered film canisters. One catches her eye, its surface pristine, untouched by time. There's no title, no markings. Just a handwritten note taped to the front. Do not show. She holds it up. This has to be it. Fred doesn't hesitate. He removes the canister's lid and carefully loads the film into the projector. The reels begin to turn. The machine hums to life, casting its beam across the silent theater below. The screen flickers, and then Victor Tremont appears. Not in a scene. Not in costume. He is alone. In this very theater. The footage is raw, unedited. Tremont stares directly into the camera, his face drawn, his eyes darting as if expecting someone to stop him. If you're watching this, he says, his voice low, urgent, then you found what they didn't want you to. Daphne grips the railing, eyes locked on the screen. Shaggy's voice is barely a whisper. Who's they? Tremont continues. I was never supposed to finish the film. They told me to leave. Told me to forget what I saw. He exhales shakily. But I couldn't, because it was never just a story. The footage shakes as if the camera is being moved. Tremont flinches, glancing over his shoulder. Then he steps aside, revealing something in the frame behind him. An empty seat in the audience. At first, it seems unremarkable. Just a single velvet chair, identical to the hundreds surrounding it. But then, it moves. The seat shifts on its own, creaking slowly as if someone is settling into it. Daphne stiffens. That chair? Fred grips the projector's controls. It's the same one we saw earlier. Tremont's voice breaks the tension. I don't know what it is, he murmurs, but it's always here, watching. It doesn't let you leave. The film glitches. Tremont takes a step closer to the camera, his face half lit by the glow of the projection behind him. You can't just walk out. His breath is ragged. Once you've seen it, it sees you. Then his expression twists in fear. He looks past the camera, eyes wide. Don't let it catch you. The footage cuts to black, a moment of utter silence. Then the sound of a seat creaking. The group freezes. Shaggy's voice is barely audible. Tell me that was part of the movie. No one answers. Because the sound didn't come from the speakers. It came from the audience. Slowly, Fred raises his flashlight. The beam sweeps across the empty theater below. Row after row of vacant seats, until one isn't empty anymore. A shadowed figure sits motionless, its outline barely visible in the dim light. Daphne grips the railing. That wasn't there before. Fred swallows hard. We need to go. Now. A low click echoes through the room. The projector shuts off on its own. Darkness swallows the theater. And in that instant, they hear it. A slow, deliberate breath, right behind them. Shaggy doesn't breathe. Not a problem. I can't feel my legs. A floorboard creaks behind them. Something shifts in the shadows. Daphne moves first, inching toward the door. Fred follows, then a whisper right behind them. You shouldn't be here. Shaggy bolts, dragging Scooby down the stairs. Fred and Daphne follow, racing toward the auditorium. The theater feels different now. The shadows deeper, the air thick with something unseen. As they near the exit, Fred reaches for the doors, but they slam shut on their own. A low whirring sound fills the room like an old film reel rewinding. Daphne grips Fred's arm. It doesn't want us to leave? Shaggy throws his hands up. Great. We'll just live here forever. Mystery solved. Fred turns toward the stage. The film showed Tremont there before he vanished. That's where it happened. They run. The old wooden planks groan under their weight. The air shimmers like static clinging to the walls. Then Velma's voice. Distant. Coming from behind the stage. Fred pushes aside the heavy curtain. In the farthest corner, Velma stands completely still, her back to them. Daphne exhales sharply. Velma! She doesn't move. Fred steps forward. Velma? Then she speaks. You shouldn't have come here. Her voice is wrong-layered, distorted, like an old recording played over itself. Fred stops. That's not her. Velma turns. Her face shifts, blurred like a damaged film reel. Her mouth moves, but her words glitch, repeating in a broken loop. Then her eyes flick past Fred's shoulder to something standing directly behind him. Fred turns just in time to see the shadowed figure from the audience now standing inches away. A shape without a face, without a voice, just watching. The film projector turns on. Victor Tremont appears, terrified, his voice urgent. You have to break it. The footage distorts violently. The film begins to burn. Fred understands. Tremont wasn't talking about escaping. He meant the film itself. Daphne grabs Fred's arm. The projector. Fred lunges toward it. The machine is hot, the reel spinning wildly. He rips the film from the projector. The theater shudders. The air ripples like the world itself is tearing apart. The shadowed figure lets out a long, hollow exhale and begins to fade. Velma collapses, gasping. Fred doesn't stop. He slams the film reel to the ground and crushes it beneath his foot. The brittle film shatters, and just like that, everything stops. The weight lifts. The Grand Royale is silent. Velma sits up, dazed. What happened? Daphne kneels beside her. You don't remember? Velma shakes her head. I remember watching the film. Then everything went black. Fred exhales. It wasn't a haunting. It was a trap. That thing, it kept people inside the film. Shaggy eyes the broken reel. So, we're not cursed forever? Daphne smirks. Looks like it. Scooby wags his tail. Ruby-dooby-doo. The lobby doors creak open. Fred turns. No more locked doors. No more whispers ... Whatever haunted the Grand Royale is gone. Outside, the first light of dawn spills over the city. The theater's marquee is completely dark. Daphne glances back. What do you think happened to Tremont? Fred looks down at the shattered film reel. I think He finally got to leave. Shaggy stretches. And now it's our turn. Scooby wags his tail. We're ready to go home. The mystery is solved, and the Grand Royale fades into history once more.